Welcome to On Track with LPM. I'm Michelle Tyreen Johnson. The Russell Community Land Trust is designed to give people in the Russell neighborhood an affordable path to home ownership. Cassandra Webb is the interim co-executive director of Russell, A Place of Promise. She joins us to talk about how her organization is helping more members of the Russell community achieve home ownership and why it's important. Could you please explain what a community trust is and how it connects to home ownership?
Yes, I can, Michelle. So a community land trust, or also known as a COT, is a way to preserve affordable housing in communities. They have been around for many years, and we are bringing one to the Russell community as a way to make sure that future homeowners have an opportunity to stay in the neighborhood. How they operate is that they are set up as 501c3 organizations. Their boards are typically comprised of a tripart board where a third of the residents that live in community land trust homes are on the board. The other third are residents of that community or that neighborhood that the COT is located in. And then another third of the board operates as community members that have some technical expertise or some type of other connection to the community that really is value aligned with the community land trust. So the COT is a steward of the land and owns the land in the community land trust. The homeowners are they own the homes that the land sits on. The way that it is able to be affordable is that the homeowner is going to purchase the home at an affordable rate based on a formula that the community land trust sets up. For instance, with the community land trust that Russell Place of Promise is operating in the Russell neighborhood, we are setting our first homes on Elliott Avenue for homeowners between 50 to 120% AMI. So Louisville's area median income. So those homes will be valued at a price that is affordable to them. And the community land trust, us, Russell Place of Promise, will put in a subsidy to allow that house to be affordable for that family. So, for instance, say a home is to construct a new home is $200,000 to build it, to put it on the market. For folks that are at 50 to 120% AMI, that may not be affordable for them. And so we then put in equity into the home to bring that price down for them to purchase the home at a price that is affordable to them. And then as they purchase that home, they are owners of that home. They can do remodeling if they want to. They could do the upgrades that they would want. And at the time that they're ready to sell that home, there is an equity cap. So say, for instance, that $200,000 home over 5 years, the home is now valued at $250,000, right? At the time of them selling it, there's an equity cap. And for us, that is going to be either 1% to 2% equity cap for them to walk away with, because we want to make sure that that home is affordable for future homeowners that want to live in the Russell neighborhood, in a COT property in the neighborhood. So that homeowner that's ready to sell will get 2% of that equity. And then the price, so when they purchased it, it was valued at $200,000. When they're trying to sell it, it's $250,000 with that equity cap. And with the funding that RPOP has to support that new homeowner, that price of that $250,000 home will be less than that, so that it's affordable for them to purchase.
So there's a lot to unpack there for folks either who know about home ownership or who don't. I kind of be halfway in the middle. So what is the AMI in terms of the amount? You said that's the average median income? And is that for the whole of all of Louisville or the Russell community, or how's that calculated?
Yeah, so we are calculating it based on, so there's different ways that AMI can be calculated. It can be calculated based on Louisville, Jefferson County. It can be based on a neighborhood. That neighborhood level data, it can be really hard to find, especially since the census is done, every 10 years. And the way that neighborhoods are comprised of multiple census tracts at times. But for us, how we are calculating is looking at Louisville's average median income. And right now, I believe for a family of three, it's sitting at about $95,000 right now for a family of three. So when we're talking about 50% AMI, we're talking about half of that. I can't do math.
Right. Me neither. Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying is that 50% of AMI, and then some folks could go to 70%, 80%. You're going to take a percentage of that average median income for Louisville, and then that's what we say is the families that we're working with.
Okay. Because I hear $200,000 to $250,000 house, and that seems like that's again. What do I know? Because I haven't bought a house in a minute. That seems like that's a lot for a house.
It's actually, our team attended the Metropolitan Housing Coalition's annual report out last week. And what the data showed in that report is that the average house in Louisville is about $300,000 right now.
Really?
Yeah. And it's such a great report. I really encourage anyone that is interested in housing, interested in just like economic development, and really care about the city to check out that report, because there's there's some great data in there around the growth of the job sectors in Louisville, and how a lot of those jobs that we are increasing in the city, they aren't able to afford to live. They may not be able to afford to live in Louisville. So there's another formula I want to put out there. So oftentimes when people talk about affordable housing, they talk about 30% of someone's income going towards the cost for rent or mortgage and utilities. So that's how we know if something is affordable. So for easy math, if you make $100,000, you should not be spending more than $30,000 every single year on your rent or mortgage or utilities. So take 30% of any other income.
Let me run and get my calculator.
So, do 30% on any other income. And that's how people really in the housing community, in the affordable housing community, calculate affordability. So we want to make sure that as folks are living in, whether it's Russell or they're living in Smoketown or any neighborhood in Louisville, that they're able to afford to live in safe, quality housing for them and their families. And what we're seeing, especially from the Metropolitan Housing Coalition report, is that unfortunately we are at a short on supply when it comes to affordable housing in Louisville. And unfortunately, that is a trend across the country right now. And it's becoming more and more of a problem.
Which makes me wonder, where do you get your properties from?
So when Russell Place of Promise launched in 2018 as an initiative, it was incubated by three organizations or three entities. One was Louisville Metro Government. And part of their commitment to Russell Place of Promise is once it stood up and became its own 501c3 organization and became a community land trust, and also met a set of other milestones, there would be 75 properties from the land bank that are in Russell that would be committed to the organization for them to own. Those, when we launched in 2018 and started to do our work, really hitting the ground running in 2020, we had not identified what 75 properties they would be. At the time, there was close to 300 properties in Russell that sat in the city's land bank. When we went back and looked at the data in 2020, 2023 that had been reduced significantly. And so what we did was we worked with community members, primarily Russell residents, around looking at the available properties in the land bank that sat in Russell. And we said, well, what properties make sense if we want to focus on affordable housing? And also community land trusts not only do home ownership, but they can also do rental. They can also do commercial spaces as well for artists and for businesses. And so as we're looking at the land that's available in Russell, what areas make the most sense for housing or other community uses? And so we worked with them for about 8 weeks, determining what made sense for our POP to say, this is the land that we want from the land bank in Russell. And they identified those places for us. So then, and we appreciate those participants, and I'll give them a shout out, those that participated in the Russell Futures Learning Lab on housing and community land trust were instrumental in us identifying those properties. And then we ran that by our board, and then our board approved it. And then we went to the land bank and said, this is what we have heard from community to say, these are the areas within Russell. These are the land bank properties we would like to have on hold for us so that we can do some affordable housing and other community uses.
Awesome. So what does home ownership look like in Russell now?
Yeah. So at the time, when we launched in 2018, 2019, the data was about 18% owner occupied housing in Russell. So folks that owned their home and lived in their home. There's quite a bit of not only just in Russell, but what you'll see in other West End neighborhoods, and then on the East downtown neighborhoods with Shelby Park and Smoketown, quite a bit of folks that own the property and own the land, but they don't occupy, they don't live in those. And so they're oftentimes rental property. And so at the time, 2018, 2019, it was about 18%. Home ownership, owner-occupied home ownership. Now, when we looked at the most recent data, that's sitting at about 26%, 27%, which sounds great, and we're glad to see those numbers go up. But there's always a story behind the numbers, and we want to take some more time looking into that.
So, with this program, can people who aren't planning on living in the homes buy them and rehab them and sell them?
No. So our community land trust is focused on folks that want to live in their homes. These are not homes that are made to be rehabbed or new construction homes that are made to be rental properties. These are for folks that want to live in the Russell neighborhood.
Awesome. As anybody who's owned a home knows, there are so many expenses that come with owning a home, both the ones you can anticipate and the ones that you cannot. Is there a program for helping people with those?
So that is something that we're currently exploring. In the past, what we have been able to do is support existing homeowners that identified as having a disability or over the age of 55. We were able to work with 10% of homeowners in Russell, supporting them in $6,000 or more in home repairs for them to age in place and to support their mobility. So everything from adding ramps to adding assistant rails in their homes or in their bathrooms, HVAC services and plumbing. And so we're hoping to do that again and being able to set up a home ownership fund so that the homeowners in the community land trust and outside of community land trust homes, so other residents in the neighborhood can be able to access those funds to support them to stay in place. Now, for these new CLT homes that we're building on Elliott Avenue, they're new home construction. So we're hoping that folks won't run into any issues for some years, and so that folks will get home warranty on their items. But these are going to be quality homes that we're hoping people don't have issues in as they live there for many years to come.
Is your program income dependent? Like, does one have to be low income to buy a home through the community land trust?
So for the community land trust, yes, we are looking at homeowners that fit that 50 to 120% AMI that we talked about earlier. There are other opportunities for folks to purchase homes in the Russell neighborhood, just a regular home buying process. And we encourage folks that are interested in doing that to go that route. But for us, for the community land trust, we're focused on that affordability.
So speaking of affordability, with so much of affordability being in the news right now, and not just in the news, but in people going to pay their bills and going to the stores. Have you found that the state of the economy is encouraging or scaring people off?
From purchasing a home?
Yeah.
So we are in the early phases of getting our first investment of CLT homes. What we have heard from people is that they're excited that this is an opportunity for them. So when it comes to community land trust in the state of Kentucky, there is one in Lexington that has been operating for about 10 years now. But in Louisville, we have one in Berrytown that's focused on more of the agricultural needs of the community. And then we have Smoketown and Russell that are more closer to central in Louisville, closer to downtown. And so we're fairly new. And so as we work together and figure out, how do we provide this form of home ownership, we're going to be learning together as well. And what we have heard both in Smoketown and in Russell is that folks are excited for this to be an option for them because it has not been an option before. So right now it's encouraging to work with community and hear their excitement about being homeowners in Russell.
People say that home ownership is tied to passing down generational wealth. Is that in any way part of your mission, and especially since there are other things that tie to passing down wealth?
Absolutely. It absolutely is. When we launched Russell Place of Promise, our focus was on wealth building and community wealth building for the neighborhood. And so for us, home ownership has been our primary focus over the years. We've also focused on small business ownership, but right now moving into our strategic plan, further into our strategic plan for the next 3 years, it's a hyper focus on housing. And so when we're thinking about the community land trust homes and the homeowners that live in those homes, we want them to have an opportunity to pass that home down to future generations. And so the way that the CLT works is that the community land trust will own the land and it'll be a 99-year lease to the homeowner, but the homeowner owns the property that sits on the land. Once they decide to pass that on to future generations, or if they have a will after they pass away, if it's willed to their family, that is okay. We want that to stay in their family. So all of those normal or regular home ownership, generational home ownership opportunities are still available for a community land trust home.
I mean, that does get back to the thing that I do find slightly confusing. The concept of owning the home, but not owning the land beneath the home. What happens in 99 years?
So what happens in 99 years? The lease will be renewed for the future homeowner. So this is something that is going to be a perpetual. It's set up for longevity. We want to make sure that as long as the CLT is around, that home ownership and affordable home ownership is available in the neighborhood. The other part that I had mentioned the board, how a third of the board will be homeowners that live in CLT properties. So that's also a form of ownership for them. So they own their home, right, that sits on CLT properties, but they are also on the board that's making decisions about the properties that their land is sitting on. And they're working with their community members, working with their fellow neighbors to make those decisions. And so while that is not outright ownership for them as an individual, again, that gets back to community ownership and making decisions with your neighbors about what happens to your community.
But the bottom line is someone still has control over their house once they buy it. And by that, I mean, if I buy it today and want to sell it to another individual, not a company, not somebody who's going to rehab, but just I can do that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can sell it to whoever you would like, but they would again need to fit that 50 to 120% AMI. That is to stick to that affordability model, that how a CLT is set up. It is to preserve affordability for families that sit in that AMI level.
That makes so much sense. Got it right there. Because otherwise I could see that getting real tricky.
Yes.
And it's sort of like those, I mean, they may not have them anymore because, of the world we live in now, but those programs that are for minority business owners, women and minority owned business owners, where the big companies, get somebody who's a minority or a woman to basically be their front to get the contract
Oh, yes.
for them to then make their money.
Yes. No. This our CLT is set up, and many others are set up to where the home, the purchaser of the home has to live in the home, and then when they are ready to sell the home, it has to go to a family that is within that AMI range that the CLT has determined. This model of CLT home ownership is not for everyone, right? If you are going to be a CLT homeowner, you are committed to the values of community wealth and community land stewardship that's for the greater good of the community and for yourself individually and for your family. And so, not everyone is in alignment with that. Some people want to be able to purchase a home, and no matter what the property value skyrockets to, want to be able to sell that home and get all that equity, right? And that's okay. And that's the path that folks have to choose for themselves. But for us, this is a strategy that is what we have heard from residents is what we want to be able to provide in Russell.
Last question is, it sounds like, because I feel like I've heard of land trusts for a while. This isn't a new model.
No. It may be new to Louisville, as I mentioned before, but this is not a new model in the United States at all, or across the world. There is close to 300 community land trusts that exist in the United States. One of the oldest community land trusts is the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, or DSNI, that's located in Boston. We had an opportunity to take residents and community members up to Boston and visit Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative a few years back, and we really fell in love with the organization and with the neighborhoods that they work in. Now, there are multiple neighborhoods that they work in with Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, but they've been around for so long. One of the oldest community land trusts, and really an organization that's about how do we steward land together, is the New Communities, Inc. out of Albany, Georgia. It came out of the Southern Civil Rights Movement in the late 60s, and was a way for former sharecroppers, to make sure that they had ownership of their land. And so when we look at the history of it in the United States, it has roots in the Civil Rights Movement. The first urban community land trust was actually created in Cincinnati, right up the road from us. And so this has been a model that's been around for a very long time. I really encourage folks to look more into community land trusts. One of our favorite places to go for resources and for technical assistance is Grounded Solutions Network, or GSN. We're also a member of GSN. They're based in D.C., but they are a network member of those 300 community land trusts across the country. So this is new to Louisville, but it is not new to many others across the world.
Great. Well, Cassandra, thank you so much for this conversation, and thank you for all you're working on. It's important.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. Cassandra Webb is the interim co-executive director of Russell, A Place of Promise. On Track is produced by Louisville Public Media. Our production team includes Aisha Jaffer, Laura Ellis, and me, with assistance from Alex Biscardi. Our music is by Kojin Toshiro. Find more at LouisvilleOnTrack.org. Thanks for listening.